Hey guys, it's Mr. Dugal, and today we're going to talk about solving algebraic equations. We're going to do this both with numbers and with variables, and you'll see what I mean here in a minute. So basically our first question is going to read something like this: x plus 13 equals 22. Now, I know many of you, when you look at this equation, you can already kind of eyeball the answer. And that is good for a beginner, and that is definitely a strategy that could work if this were the only problem and if this was as difficult as it got. The problem is that as we get deeper into math, you'll notice that the questions get more difficult. So a good strategy to remember is what we call inverse operations. And inverse means opposite. So inverse operations basically says whatever operation you're given, do the opposite. In order to illustrate this, our operations that we have are parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, addition, subtraction. So it's PEMDAS. So the inverse of that, the opposite of that, would be addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, addition, parentheses. So for example, they give me here addition. The inverse would be to subtract. I'm going to subtract 13 from this side. 13 minus 13 is 0, so I'm just left with x on the left side. And we know from using algebra tiles that whatever I do to one side of the equation in order to balance the equation, I need to do to the other. So 22 minus 13 is 9. I'm left with x equaling 9. To do another example, we'll do y divided by 5 equals 12. Let me go ahead and write out my inverse operations. Here they give me division. So I'm going to do the opposite, and that would be to multiply. So if I have 5, if I multiply by 5 here, this reads 5 divided by 5 here still, so I'm just left with y. If I do that to one side, I need to balance my equation by doing it to the other. I'm left with 12, y equals 12 times 5, and 12 times 5 is 60, y is 60. For both of these, I can go back and plug them in to my original and see if it works. 9 plus 13 does equal 22, so that works. 60 divided by 5 does equal 12, so that one works as well. Okay, the last one I'm going to do is with variables. I said earlier that we would do some equations with variables. So say I have g times x equals b. I need to ask myself, what is keeping x from being by itself? So for example, my first equation, the thing that kept x from being by itself was the plus 13. The second example, the thing that kept y from being by itself was divided by 5. And in this example, the thing that's keeping x from being by itself is the multiplying by g. So I want you to kind of visualize to yourself, what is it that I would do to get x by itself? What inverse operation would I do? And what should I be left with? Go ahead and take a few seconds to think about that. Okay, in this case, the inverse of multiplying is to divide. So right here, I'm multiplying by g. In order to cancel g, I need to divide by g. G divided by g is just 1, so I'm left with 1x. Whatever I do to one side, I now need to balance that by doing to the other. So I need to divide this side by g also. So x equals b divided by g. X is now by itself. This is now my answer. So that's how we do inverse operations with algebraic equations for both numbers and variables. Hopefully this is helpful to you moving forward. Thanks so much for watching.